Hello, everyone, and good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world watching this interview. And welcome to a very special author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Many of you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And joining us today is a guest that I've been trying to get on the show for the last 2 years. And now I'm finally able to get her on the show. Now, this guest is a Swedish full-time author living in Ireland since 2006. And she's currently writing the third book in her Girl of Darkness series. And the books are a great mix of folklore, mysticism, witches, stone circles, history, grimoires, young love, and of course, old haunted houses. She's represented by InterSaga Literary Agency and has signed a multi-book deal with Sweet Cherry Publishing for the world rights of her YA urban fantasy series. Now, the first book in her Girl of Darkness series will be published September of this year. So,
Yay.
without further ado, viewers and listeners, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to have this guest on the show because, as I said, it's been 2 years we've been trying to make this work, but now we finally have been able to do it. So let's give a
Oh,
huge round of applause to our guest today, author Kristina Dowling. Kristina,
oh,
welcome to the show.
thank you so much. My God, what an introduction. I'm blushing over here. Thank you so much, Gabriel. And again, it's been a long time in the making.
Absolutely, Kristina, absolutely. Now, before we dive into this amazing author interview, that's a little icebreaker question. Is there a random fact that not a lot of people may know about you? Possibly, maybe a little dabble in voice acting? Hint, hint.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I have dabbled in voice acting. I have done audiobook narration for a few years, but I am a a full-time author right now anyway. But yes, I have.
Nice. Very, very nice. Now, without spoiling too much of your Girl of Darkness series, what can people expect from the first book releasing later this year?
Well, if for any fans of Where the Dark Stands Still, Gallant, Raven Boys, and A Discovery of Witches, so I think it's like a cocktail of all those things. It's a dark YA urban fantasy suited for. It is probably marketed towards slightly younger than young adults, but the books have come out obviously published in Sweden beforehand, so I've had readers from the age of 11 up till 85. So I think it's just attracting a wide crowd, which is lovely. It's just a little bit of it for everyone, I think.
Awesome. Awesome. So, before we dive further into, the overall behind the scenes of your Girl of Darkness series, let's talk a little bit about you, Christina. So, from your bio, you are originally from Sweden, but you moved to Ireland. And I'm actually very curious, growing up, were you always passionate about storytelling, or would you consider a specific moment in your life, either in your adolescence or your adulthood, that really pushed you to create your own series?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I probably don't have a specific moment, but I think I've always loved storytelling. And I think it's mostly from my grandmother, who was always into the world of folklore and trolls and princesses. I mean, the folklore in Sweden is just like Ireland, and it's just very rich. So I think she used to tell me fairy tales from an early age and always encouraged me. So it just, yeah, I can't really, not a defining moment, but I think from about the age of 7, I started producing little stories. Like there was no tomorrow. It was just, I think I still have them here somewhere. So yeah, I'm 42 now, so for the past 35 years, it's definitely been a dream in the making.
Nice, nice. And speaking of dreams in the making, let's talk about how your series sort of came about. So, what really surprised you about making the decision to not only write this series, but also publish it as well? What really surprised you about that part of your journey?
I think, well, again, it's always been a dream of mine. And I think the idea to the book, it just came out of nowhere. I mean, the central part of it was a haunted vicarage, a rectory, up in the north of Sweden. It actually exists. And I remember having a friend over in Dublin when I was still living in Dublin. I'm a bit outside of Dublin now. And she was telling me about this haunted house. And the idea just popped into my head about, Era Martel, which is the main character, and her three friends. So that surprised me, obviously getting such a clear idea and started writing it. I think the biggest surprise was that it actually happened, that I actually persevered, because I mean, I got the idea back in 2012 and it was finished 2021. I have two kids, I had two kids in between, and there were years when I didn't really write, but the idea just stuck with me, and it just, this is something you should finish. And it's probably one of my proudest moments, actually, pursuing that dream and having, being brave enough to do it, because it's scary. You really, it's, yourself, it's your book baby.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, when writing the book itself, did you have a outline that went along with it, or did you write from the scenes of your pants? And also, not only as an author, but also as a parent as well, how were you able to balance the two to not feel overwhelmed?
Oh God, I probably didn't, but I did it anyway. I think. Sorry, what was the first question again? Sorry, I.
Of course, of course. So the first part of the question was, when you began writing the first book in your trilogy, did you have an outline that you worked on before you began writing, or will you consider yourself more of a spontaneous writer and just began writing the story from right there?
Right there. I think I just started writing it, and it just changed appearance about 400 times. I had so many, I think, yeah, there were so many directions the story was going in, and I think just there were certain things that just fell into place. So no, I didn't have an outline at all. I just wrote, and then I think actually towards the end of it, I probably started putting together a synopsis just to see where all the pieces would fit. So yeah, I would say I am definitely a mood writer. I'd like to see myself as a very organized person, but when it comes to writing, I think I'm just, yeah, definitely mood writing, not too organized. But I'm hoping that will change now with book 3.
Nice, very, very nice. And now these next set of questions are fan questions, Kristina, but they may border on spoilers. So feel to give as little or as much
Okay.
information as you like. And for the first fan question,
Mhm.
one of my viewers would like to know, who is your favorite character in the first book of your trilogy, and do you have a favorite scene or moment?
Oh, favorite. Well, I think I probably would be, I mean, my FMC as my female main character, Era, because I think even though she's very different to me, there's definitely still, we are alike in ways. And I think I put, some of my fears into her, some of my, not being afraid of who you are, and you're good enough as you are. My other favorite is probably, the male character, and the scene when they actually meet, because they are kind of fated mates a little bit, but
Mm.
obviously on opposite sides. So it is a bit enemies, not to lovers yet, but like it is, yeah, the kind of the chemistry and the dynamic of their first meeting is probably my favorite in the first book.
Awesome, awesome. Next fan question. Who is probably the most difficult character to write or the most challenging scene to bring to fruition?
I think with the first book and the chat. No, I don't think there was anything there that was challenging. But there's a new character coming into book 3, in this year that I'm currently writing, and it is one of the villains. And I find that hard. I mean, I'm sure we all have a little bit of darkness inside of us, but I do find just making him not a typical villain. I feel like that's definitely, challenging.
Mm,
Like I want to make him with lots of layers, without being stereotypical. Do you know?
right.
Yeah. So
Very
that's
true.
lovely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And now the last fan question with regard to characters. Now, your book deals with a lot of mysticism, witches, a lot
Mhm.
of mythology, various cultures, and so forth. So, how did you ensure that each character felt authentic in the sense that it makes sense for them to exist in the world that they are supposed to be a part of?
Oh my God, that was a very good question. Um, I don't know. I think like I wouldn't say intuitively because like obviously had to do a lot of research because I am mixing Swedish, obviously Sweden, Ireland, and Romania, and that's quite unique in itself.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think I mean I mean I feel like the character obviously the Swedish ones were easy, but I think I definitely had a bit more to do a bit more research just about Romania. But I find it easier though when you're writing fantasy. It doesn't of course it has to be authentic, but you can also play around a bit more, I think, you
Mm,
know. It's not, you know, it's urban fantasy, I suppose, so it is the real world, but obviously with supernatural elements.
very true. Very, very
Mm.
true. And since this is your big series with this publishing agency, ultimately, with your first book releasing later this year, what was the goal you had, not just for the first book, but the overall series as a whole, as well as the promise you're making to not just yourself as the author,
Mm.
but your fans as well as fans of the genre?
Oh, I think something different. I think every author probably say that. I want to be different, but I just think that it is unique in a way because it's obviously combining. Oops, it combines obviously Swedish, Irish, and Romanian folklore, and I think the most important thing for me, you know, being such an avid reader since a young age. I mean, I was living in the library. I feel like I just want to create a joy for reading, and not only for my books, but I want them to maybe instill a joy to dwell further into different genres. And also, I mean, I find it with my books, I mix a lot of fantasy and history. So I want them to feel relatable, even though it is fantasy.
Mm,
And I feel like that's probably why the books in Sweden have attracted quite a wide audience because there is, you know, a little bit for everyone, you know, for those people who like magic, for those people who like history and witches and, you know, being young and finding yourself.
absolutely, very true. Now, this next question, I actually asked a previous guest not too long ago, but it definitely sparked a discussion. Now, Kristina, in your opinion,
Yeah.
what is the difference from someone who says that they are a writer as opposed to someone who says that they are an author?
Do you know what? Being a non-native English speaker, obviously being from Sweden, I thought writer was American and author was more English or British English, but I could be wrong.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay, that's actually different. That's a different perspective because when I was asking my guest about this,
Mm.
it definitely did spark something because are you considered an author if you only publish your work? And are you a writer if you're considered unpublished? Because there are a lot of
Oh.
writers, but not a lot of writers are authors in the sense of published.
Oh, is that? Do you
So,
know what? I didn't know. I actually didn't know.
it did spark this huge thing. Or kind of even going forward, do you think there is a difference or distinction between the two? Do you think a writer can become an author?
But you know what? That's a question. Actually, like I said, this always distinguished by like American English and British English. So I was obviously miles away from the correct answer. Do you know what? I think being an it's a question that is, I just feel like absolutely anyone, if you put your heart and soul into anything, I think it's, yeah, of course it's possible to go from a writer to an author. But I feel like regardless of how you're published or if you're not published, you are an author regardless. To me, anyway, I feel like that's just how I try not to differentiate between the two.
Right. Okay, yeah. Because this
I don't know
question,
if that was the right answer.
no, that definitely does. Because it is a difficult question to answer
Yeah.
because there is no right or wrong to this because it's a very open ended question because it leaves a lot of room, for debate. But on
Yeah.
this topic of the title of being an author, this leads into the discussion of for us claiming the title of
Mm,
author and taking ownership.
mm.
Now, Christina, for you and your journey, when did you feel comfortable and confident to claim the title and ownership of being an author?
Well, I think probably pretty early because I mean, as I said, I was writing from a young age and I was published when I was really young. I think I was I think I wrote it when I was 11 or something, and it was published. It's I don't know, it's somewhere here in my writing room, but I wrote like a book when I was about 10 or 11 about a girl and her two ponies. And it was a pony book club back in Sweden who picked it up, and they published like six of them as short stories. And they had like, I think it was like a calendar, a horse calendar coming out. So yeah, I think because of that, I think I've always, considered myself an author. But for me, again, it doesn't really differentiate to me if yeah, writer or author. So yeah, but then of course, when I was published as an adult, yeah, it felt more real, I suppose.
Nice. Okay. Now, as you got older
Mm.
and started finding, and refining your voice and your skills, when did you tell friends and family that not only you were embarking on a new series, but that you had been picked up by a publishing house?
When did I tell them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, probably everyone. I mean, I think what I did was, which I think the best advice I could give any aspiring author would be to join a community, because, as you know, writing is very solitary. And I
Mm-hmm.
was, writing for years until 2021 then. So 5 years ago, I've had my own private Instagram for years, but that's when I started to just, you know what, hang on, maybe there is such a, I didn't know about Bookstagram. So I joined, and I just feel like that has given me such a huge push in my writing, because I shared, this was before I had a contract or anything. So I think a lot of people were aware of, my dream to become an author. So yeah, I think I've always very open about it, but I also know a lot of people who aren't. They just find it's scary, and you're putting yourself out there. But to me, I think, yeah, I was very, very open about everything. Even, I mean, the ups and
Awesome.
downs and everything, the doubts, and yeah, I think so. But I think that's just who I am as a person.
All right, all right. Now, before you made a decision to publish your book, I
Mm,
imagine you did some beta readers and ARC readers for the first book in the series. Now, at that stage in your journey of being an author,
mm.
what was the reaction like? Was it more positive, more critical, or a 50-50 split?
Oh, thankfully it was very positive, but there was also invaluable feedback, constructive feedback. I remember, like, for the first book, obviously before it came out in Sweden, before I sent it to publisher, I had a kind of a freelancing editor, and she was giving me great feedback on, your prologue is way too long, and just see, because sometimes I think when you've been with your manuscript for so long, you don't really see, but I think someone coming in with fresh eyes, um yeah.
Yes,
It's, so yeah, no,
very,
I
very
thought
true.
that experience was incredibly scary, but also hugely rewarding, getting, feedback.
Yes, absolutely. Feedback is very, very important
Mm,
for us authors because it
yes.
definitely not only shows us, okay, what we need to improve upon, but also gives us an idea of, like, okay, we're hitting our audience. We
Mm.
know exactly who we are writing for. And this goes into the next two-part question, which I think
No.
every author definitely needs to talk about and should be brought to the forefront, and that is dealing with writer's block, and of
Mm.
course, imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Now, Kristina, in your career, how have you been able to deal with those two?
Oh, I think it's, like you said, such important questions, because it's definitely, I mean, I think what you see sometimes in Instagram is all like, oh my goodness, getting a book contract, getting published and living my dream. But there's a lot behind the scenes that I'm trying to be, quite transparent about on my social media. Um, but when it comes to writer's block, it's probably something I've suffered. I'm having a bit of a writing break now, because I find, and this is obviously, I'm hugely grateful for where I am in my journey, but a huge change has been, being an aspiring author. You're still channeling, for me anyway, my inner child from being 7, dreaming about this and loving to write and knowing that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Sometime along the way now, I feel like having, published 2 books, writing the third, and then having the first one in the series coming out in English. I know it's confusing. That to me made me feel like for a while, I think I was just writing, probably not from my usual pure joy. It was just more pressure. And I felt that that gave me a bit of both writer's block and imposter syndrome. Because imposter
Mm,
syndrome, I think you just need to knock it on its head. But like, I think we all suffer from it. We really do. I mean, you know yourself, you're an author too. And it's,
mhm.
yeah, but I think you just have to keep believing in yourself or talk to loved ones about it, you know, about your fears. Because, like I said, people are kind of like, you know, you assume people think, but you have a publisher, you have an agent, you should be all grateful and happy, which I am. But it comes with other things that, you know, unexpectedly so, that you think that this will give you all the confidence in the world. But sometimes it could actually be days when you feel quite the opposite.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Mm.
very true. Now, almost to clarify what you said in the beginning, so your books were originally published in Swedish, if I'm not mistaken, and now
Sweden, yeah.
they're now being published in English, correct?
No, so yeah, so the first book, so my Swedish publisher is called Seraph Publishing. So
Mm-hmm.
they are a small publishing house in Sweden, a fantastic one. And they published my first book, so it is called Girl of Darkness. They published that in October 2022. And my second one, The Secret of the Grimoire, came out in, was it September 2024? So that's that's where we're at the moment. And then this third one in the series to be published in Sweden, it was due now in September, but it was the same month my English one is coming out, the first one in the series. So I've actually postponed the third one now till next year because I just couldn't I couldn't make it
Mm.
work. So yeah, that's it. So Swedish, published in my native Sweden, and now I'm embarking on the journey as a UK publisher.
Nice, nice. And we're gonna be talking about a little bit that when we get into the business side
Yeah.
of being an author, because I'm very curious of how you're able to have, in a way, two publishers. You know, your native Swedish
Mm,
publisher, and of course, you know, an English publisher. So I'm
yeah.
very curious about how that went about. So before we get to that,
Hmm.
talk a little bit about, you know, the reflective side of being an author,
Hmm.
especially in the digital age. Now, I'll give some context for this question, Christina.
Hmm.
So, as you may have known, and since we've been talking for, you know, the last 2 years, I've been doing my show now for about 7 years total, which, if you break
Wow.
it up, was 3 years on Spotify, now 4 years, going on 4 years on YouTube. It's absolutely insane. And being an author in the digital age is very, very interesting
Mm,
because it's never been more easier to get published, but it's never been a pain to get noticed and to market our books. It is
it is.
such a nightmare. And even
Yes.
for, you know, trad authors as well, because even with their publication and their literary agents, they also have to go figure out, okay, how am I going to market and publish this book? What can I use? They also have to do a lot of research into,
Mm,
okay, this book has this, and this. Who are the, you know, the demographics of those genres? So there's a lot of research that goes into it that not a lot of people take into consideration. And
absolutely.
social media, as you will probably definitely agree, Christina, is a double-edged sword. It
Mm,
can be your biggest help or your downfall. And
mm,
unfortunately, social media can leave us exposed.
mm.
We are pretty much at the mercy of, you know, trolls, spam, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And imposter syndrome and writer's block are also heightened by
Yeah.
social media, because I'm sure you've gotten a lot of comments probably over the years of people saying, when the next book coming out, when is this coming out?
Mm.
And then, of course, maybe some people who have done, you know, gotten advanced copies of the book and left their
Mm,
reviews, have probably made some comparisons. And while on one side that's really good from a reader's perspective, on the other side for an author, they may feel like, well, am I really as good as that author
mm.
or something like that? So
Absolutely.
ultimately, Christina, with that said, what has still kept you grounded and disciplined as the author you were when you embarked on this journey all those years ago?
Oh, again, very well summed up, I must just say. I totally agree. I think I was just embracing the community. Like I said, I'd just been so lonely in my writing. Obviously having huge support from family and friends, but no one to really talk about, you know, with properly, other authors or readers. So I found when I started in Sweden, and bear in mind, Sweden is, I mean, land, like it's size-wise, it's big, but it's still a very small market. And I found when I started my social media, it came very naturally. I found it, it was just something I felt I meant to do this. And,
Mhm.
for the last, 4 or 5 years, I loved it. But then it's a whole different ball game now that I'm, obviously, because most of my content, all my content was in Swedish. So with that small market, I think you could make more of a mark. But now I definitely feel like exactly like you said, oh my God, it is such huge help, but it is a double-edged sword sometimes because you do feel like you might work your butt off with something, a post and it gets no traction. So that I find really hard and just kind of reaching people because we're so many of us fighting for a space. So yeah, I mean, definitely. So that's definitely a new challenge to just market myself to the English speaking market, which is just millions, billions of people rather than tiny Sweden, so to speak.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about something which I am very intrigued to hear your thoughts on, especially since you have background as a voice actor and narrator, and
Yeah.
that is, of course, generative AI and AI in general in the publishing industry,
Yeah.
and unfortunately in the narration and voice acting community, especially on ACX. I've had a lot of narrators, a lot of good friends of mine in the industry talk about it and share their stories.
Mm.
And so I would like to hear your thoughts on this, Kristina, as both an author and as, a narrator. And if you think, AI as a tool is always going to be there. We can't get around it.
No.
But what I think a lot of people have an issue with is generative AI, and rightly so. And would like to hear your thoughts on it. And if things aren't changed or regulated, that AI could be, unfortunately, I hate to say it, the new standard in the industry.
Yeah, and it's something that I find absolutely terrifying. But at the same time, I just have this, to be honest, I'm first and foremost, I must say, like, I don't think I know too much about AI. Obviously, I'm aware of it with ChatGPT and all, but I just feel like having a really strong opinion about it, I don't feel like I'm informed enough. I can only speak from, as an author, as a narrator, being creative. I mean, I'm always hoping that authenticity will win over AI because
Hmm.
as much as you can, like, I know people say, you can generate books, you can do that, but like, I think deep down we will always know. It's like when you watch videos on TikTok or Instagram that are, I spotted a mile away that is AI. It's just something that is not, doesn't feel real. So I don't really know what the future holds when it comes to AI, but I'm just hoping it will be some kind of, maybe it's going to come to the point where we're probably getting, yeah, so fed up with it that it might be a renaissance of going back to something more basic. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
But yeah, like I said, it is something that scares me that that just we will all become obsolete, not only authors, but like, I spoke to a friend today over coffee and, she's in IT and she said, oh my God, my job could totally be automated. And that's scary. Will it be just cyborgs in the end or like it's, yeah, I find AI fascinating, but also scary, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll definitely agree, in an era where we have technologically driven content,
Mm,
especially for authors, I can definitely see, and I've had a lot of friends who have admitted to using AI to at least make book trailers or stuff like that. But also some of these people are, classically trained as either video makers or graphic designers. So they can do it. They just use AI just to polish it and clean it. And as a tool to like do that, I can understand and respect. I think
mm-hmm.
what a lot of people have a problem with, and rightly so, is using it to generate content. And unfortunately, those works have gone into print. I'm sure you may have heard of or seen the document, Christina, or I think it was a news article of a woman who said that she was able to make about 200 books using AI. And I was like, okay,
Oh my God, no,
that's
that's
not
terrifying.
that's
No,
not possible. Like
no.
there is no feasible way to do so. It is slop, and your readers are going to pick it up. And
Mm,
that, of course, now leads us into the marketing aspect
mm,
of being an author. Now, as a little icebreaker question, Kristina,
mhm. Yeah.
when you originally published your books in Sweden, and
Hmm.
now that they're going to be, republished in a manner of speaking
Mm.
for an
Translated.
English
Yeah.
speaking audience,
Mm.
yes. Is there anything you did differently in terms of marketing your books from before?
I would probably knew a lot less. I think I spent when I, like I said, I was so overjoyed by having a community. So I think I spent like a lot of time, creating content, and I worked so hard. I mean, I think importance with social media, I find, is having something to tie in with your book, because I think people eventually probably will be, that's just from my point of view, they might be like, okay, we've heard about Girl of Darkness now for a lot. So
Mhm.
I always find that when I started my social media, I wanted to have a backup. So I started to kind of post things that were very relatable to Girl of Darkness. Like I posted like the most haunted places in Sweden, the most haunted places in Ireland, because it tied in with my book, because obviously a lot of the stuff in my book would be hauntings and witches. So I find that that helped hugely, because people are just like, oh my god, what is this? That's a haunted house. Oh my god, it's actually in her book. I'm going to read her book now. So I feel like doing that, I think I spend, and I still do that now. I still, on my TikTok and my Instagram, I do have little themed kind of I started like doing a witchy Wednesday, just 2 or 3 minutes talking about witches. Everyone loves talking about magic. Well, so not
Mhm.
everyone, but a lot of people. I started with Folklore Friday, because all of that tie in with Girl of Darkness. So I do feel like I work really, really hard with social media, but I do find it, as much as I love it, I totally get what you're saying about the double-edged sword. That I do
Mhm.
find it sometimes, it, as much as I love it, you need breaks from it. And I find it
Yes,
hard sometimes finding that balance of, waking up in the morning and not immediately go for my phone, starting scrolling and replying to comments. But yeah, I'm sure I'll figure out that balance one day anyway.
absolutely. And this is another fan question, which was made specifically for you, Christina.
Oh my goodness, delighted.
And one of my viewers was able to look at your channel, and they did learn that you used to do narration for a while
Yeah.
before becoming an author. So they would like to know, on chance, have you ever narrated one of your own characters from your own books to get an idea of, okay, would they actually say this? Would they actually be in the right headspace for fun, since you do have that background in narration?
Well, I forgot to tell you this, but I did narrate both of my books in Sweden.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So yes, I've done that multiple times. A little bit of, playing around with them, both professionally and obviously behind the scenes. So yeah, I think that's a great idea to just, how does it sound spoken out loud? So yeah, definitely would recommend that.
Awesome. Awesome. Now let's actually get into probably the big thing when it comes to marketing, knowing the audience. Because the
Yes.
audience is the most important thing.
Yes.
Because for us as authors, we're the target. We know the story better than anyone else.
Mm,
But marketing it is another thing entirely, because, as I'm sure you'll definitely agree, each genre of writing has its specific readership. And
mm,
within that readership is how a story is supposed to go. And
yeah.
that's not always easy.
No.
And when we're trying to market our book, we have to realize, okay, we don't want it to be too similar to a book that
Mm,
already exists, but nothing too original that's going to throw everybody out there. And
mm,
going back again to your bio, you were able to combine a lot of different things. You combined from Ireland, Sweden, Romania, the
mm.
various
Good.
cultures and subcultures within all
Mm,
three countries to give it its own identity.
mm,
So when you finally got around to getting it finalized and
mm,
everything,
mm.
how daunting was it to really understand your audience? And did you know your audience beforehand?
Yeah, I suppose I did, because, like I said, I think I created my Instagram author account in 2021. And back then, I've only had like a raw manuscript. And then I sent it to publishers in May of the same year. And then I got a contract in June. for 3 books in Sweden. So yeah, I think I had created very close relationships with my followers then in Sweden, and they kind of, but what surprised me a lot is how, like I said, the age group, the wide audience of the book, because I thought, oops, sorry, I thought it would be, young adults. I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't even, this is going to sound so silly, Gabriel, but I didn't know what genre I was writing. I completely
Oh,
wrote a book.
okay.
I wrote a book that I just thought, I'm sure every author would say this, but I wrote a book that I knew that I wrote it for myself. I would have loved this. I would have loved the folklore. I would love the history, the witches, the stone circles, the forbidden romance. And then I remember sending it to this freelancing editor, and she was kind of like, "Oh, this is urban fantasy," and I'm kind of like, "What's that?" Like I had no idea. This was 5 years ago. Obviously, I'm well more informed now, but so yeah, I think what surprised me was the age that 11-year-olds could enjoy it and 80-year-olds could enjoy it and everything in between. So yeah, so I think I thought I knew my audience, but in the end I probably didn't. It just became a bit bigger than I thought it would be, which I'm so grateful for.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now let's talk about probably another big thing about
Hmm.
being an author in terms of marketing, and that is networking, which is vital for authors, getting our
Yes.
group, getting our tribe, so to speak. Now, did you already have a team already helping you in the beginning, or once you got picked up by the two agencies, your one in Sweden and now one in the UK, were you given a team for both and together worked about, getting what the cover is supposed to look like, or readers and viewers and stuff like that? And how important is it, regardless of what direction an author wants to
Mm.
go, whether it's indie, hybrid, or trad, that networking is and should be a vital aspect of the journey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first I must say, but like my Swedish publisher, it's a very small. I mean, they've grown a lot over the years, but they were very small. So there was no, I had a few like beta readers, but there was no ARC editions or anything. It was literally just published, and the two women running it, they're fantastic. But they were doing all by themselves. They did marketing, they did PR, they did the editing, and I think they had probably freelancing people coming in. But now with my UK publisher, it's such a different ball game, because this publisher, they have a sales team, they have a marketing team, they have a foreign rights team, they have an editing team, obviously. So it's a whole new world. So in terms of networking, I think the networking I did was already, I think I just had such a huge, like a really close bond with my followers in Sweden. But now I think I'm learning a lot now, because I'm obviously chatting to a lot of authors who would be, hybrid, trad, and self-published. And they kind of like, they started talking, I don't know if this is big in America, but they started talking a lot about having a street team. Is that something you're familiar with?
I've heard of street teams,
Mm.
but at least here in the States, street teams are more so for indie authors. I don't
Okay.
know if any major publishing group here in the States has used of a street team, or if they do, they probably call it by something else here.
Yes, I think so. I've never heard of it before, but I thought it sounded cool, um, having a team. But I think what we'll do, I think my UK publisher, Sweet Cherry Publishing, obviously have a lot of influencers that they collaborate with. So I'm not really too sure, because I mean, obviously it's only February, so we're probably roughly about 6.5 months from publication. So I think a lot of that stuff is coming. I think they're just getting everything into gear now. I think they're obviously preparing for London Book Fair
Mm,
in March. So I can't really say, much about networking at the moment, but I'm sure it would all come further down the line.
right. 100%. Very, very true. Now we're going to go into some rapid fire fan
Oh
questions.
my goodness. I
So
always feel like
let's
I
start.
fail at these.
Oh, you're going to be fine, Christina. You're going to be
No,
fine.
thank you.
So the first rapid fire question is, I'm going to change up a little bit.
Hmm.
Most overrated and underrated trope in fiction.
Oh my God. Underrated. I actually had this conversation. I did another interview. Um, at a podcast, and he was kind of saying that most underrated is probably lovers to enemies. You don't really hear much about that.
No, you don't. It's either the opposite. It's usually enemies to
Yeah.
lovers, but not lovers to enemies.
No, and I mean, I see the thing. I probably see. I don't think I have a certain opinion about what's overrated. I know, like obviously, enemies to lovers is done. You know, it's so much, but I'm still always going to go for it. I love it. So I can't really. I don't really know an overrated trope. I think I'm a sucker for them all.
I think the one that probably gets the most is enemies to lovers. I think that is probably
Mm,
definitely among the top most overused trope in
yes.
fiction.
But I think yeah, so I probably would say yes, it is overuse, but I think when it's done well, I love it. I really do.
All right. Next one. As a reader, do you
Hmm.
prefer themes or tropes?
Themes or tropes?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the real difference there? Sorry, I
No problem. No problem. So tropes are like, enemies to
yes,
lovers.
I got that. But
Themes,
themes, what would
themes could be, themes of like, hero's journey or not being the same person as we were before. It's like invoking kind of like an emotion. Like you could say, like, ultimately, the Lord of the Rings, as an example, the major
Mhm.
theme is, good versus evil, which you could argue that could be a trope in itself, but like
Yeah, it's very
homeward
hard.
journey of, not being the same person as you were before. Ultimately, the message. That's probably a better way. The message. You prefer like books that have tropes, or you prefer books to have like a message at the end, something that you can think and ponder on.
I think I would probably, I mean, the ultimate answer to that would be a mix of both. But no, I probably would be more towards trope. I think. I think what I'm looking for in books is it's a bit of escapism. You know what I mean? I just want
Yes.
to. I do find that there's certain books I want to read, but I also know that some of them, like for instance, now you probably heard of Hamnet, the
Yes.
movie that's out now. It's one of those movies and books I'd love to read, but as a mother, I don't know if I could have. I don't know if I could. Oh, I would just,
Mm.
those. So yeah, I feel like I probably would look for maybe a bit of more escapism in terms of maybe lighter read, not too dark. Although I do enjoy crime and thrillers, but I feel like you have a bit of a distance to it.
All
But
right.
yeah, I,
No
I
problem. No
don't know if any
problem.
of these answers are
Oh, no, these are
rapid
perfect.
enough.
These
Thanks.
are perfect.
Oh.
Next one.
Hmm.
Out of the five physical senses, which, in your opinion, is probably the most difficult to emulate in storytelling?
As in like taste.
Yes.
Oh, that's a very good. Yeah, sometimes just the touch of certain things. I mean, I think describing all of the six senses, or it's something that you just have to do delicately, I think. So it's not, over describing it. So I think, yeah, probably all of them, it just, you have to have that balance of, show rather than tell.
Very true. Very, very true. Next one. This is a two-parter.
Ooh,
What's your
okay.
favorite way to introduce conflict into a scene? And following that, how do you balance the intensity of the scene with the emotions of the character?
Again, also great questions, and it's all about balancing them. Introducing conflict, I find quite easy. I mean, like if it's yeah, I'm just trying to think the conflict in my book. Um, I feel like you need to. It's a lot of soul searching into introducing conflict because I think, I mean, people always say. Um, what is that saying again? I can't remember if this is a Swedish or English saying now, but just, dig where you stand, as in know what you write. So I feel
Yes.
like obviously my female main character is finding out that she has, these powers and she's, part of this bloodline. And, I think I've used a little bit of, your childhood fears of who am I and am I able for this? Am I good enough? So I feel like you need to draw a lot from yourself when you're writing these conflicts to make them authentic. And if not, I feel like if I'm writing a really, really sad scene, I make sure to watch a really, really sad movie or like a really, really listen to a song that always makes me cry. And just in terms of the intensity, I think that's something that's just editing is for as well. You might write something and you're just like, oh my God, I'm all for it. And then you know, maybe rereading it and just like, no, this needs to be toned down. So I think you never know. I think, I mean, like, you know, no first draft or no first scene you write is ever going to be perfect. So I think it's just, you know, I think you develop a certain sense for it. If it's, and then
Mm,
obviously that's what, you know, editors and better readers are for, arc readers, just to say, oh, I'm not sure about this. Um,
absolutely. You know, that is very, very true.
Mm.
Next question, and I'm going to change this one slightly a little bit because I know a lot of people kind of get stumped on this one. So
Oh
let's say, and that kind of goes back to what you mentioned earlier, that you narrated your books originally.
no.
So imagine this, Christina. Let's say you have a stupid amount of money to redo the audiobook production of
Hmm.
your trilogy. Who would you want in terms, let's say, the top three main characters? Who would you want from the narrator pool of people that probably you have met or heard of in the industry that you would like to voice said characters?
You know what? I don't think I can answer that one because I am only probably familiar with narrators in Sweden, so that would just be a
That's fine.
bit.
That's perfectly fine.
But I mean, the one thing I do, I know she's narrating books. Have you watched Bridgerton? I don't know if that's your type of show.
I've seen it. I've seen a
Okay,
little
well,
bit
there's a
of it,
girl.
like on Netflix.
Okay, it's very good. I'm obsessed with it. And there's a girl in there called Eloise. I can't remember now what her real name is, but her character's name is Eloise, and she has a fantastic voice. So, but that's as far as I can go, because as I said, I know so many narrators in Sweden, but that won't do. Won't do you
Okay.
any good.
Well, kind of taking that on its head, originally, if your books were adapted into a film or a limited series, and I know this may be equally challenging, who
Mm.
would you want to play the main leads and direct it?
Oh, directed. Oh my goodness. I That's a very good question. Director? I mean, I love his. I mean, it's not as scary, but I love his. I can. Is it Mike Flanagan?
Yes.
I love him. I love like what he did with oh God, that scared the bejesus out of me. The Haunting of Hill House. If I could pick, I probably would picture my female main character as a young Saoirse Ronan. Do you know Saoirse Ronan?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
that's a
that
good
kind of
actress.
strawberry blonde, green eyes. And then for her grandmother has a central part in the story. I love. Have you seen The Others with Nicole Kidman?
Yes.
Do you know the white-haired lady in it, Fionnuala Flanagan?
Gosh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know
I
the
know.
actor's name.
They're basically one of the servants. Obviously, you find it. Yeah, well, I shouldn't spoil it for anyone who hasn't watched it because it's such a great inspiration for my writing, The Others. But she would be the grandmother, and then yeah, I find Gabriel. Actually, my male character is named Gabriel, and I find it really hard. He's like a mix of a lot. I mean, there's a bit of Timothy Chalamet in it, but he's darker. You know what I mean? He's a bit more sinister than Timothy Chalamet. But yeah, that's as far as I could go with that at the moment with those three. Anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Those are really good choices. Those are
Yay.
really, really good ones,
Mhm.
Christina. And now we arrive at the final question of this amazing author interview.
Oh no! Thank you.
So we talked about a lot of things in this interview, from your background as an author, what are the inspirations for your books, how you
Mm.
marketed your book as well, and then ultimately, I'm just so amazed of how much this book series has gotten like a lot of praise from, of course, readers in Sweden to now going to be here in the UK and possibly in the States as well when it
Oh,
becomes
fingers
available.
crossed.
So at the end of the day,
Mm.
what do you want people to take away from this series?
I think, yeah, I think I've kind of touched on that a little bit before. I think especially the day and age we're living in, writing for young people and also seeing the huge decline in young people reading
Yes.
books. So I'm hoping that it would instill to just be like, my God, I couldn't put this book down. I can't wait for the next one. And not only, like I said before, not only my books, other people's books. I'm hoping that they could open a small door that could turn into a whole building for people. And also curiosity, because I do bring in a lot of history and folklore. So, kind of a spark interest in lots of things, because I've always been very curious as a person. I've always, looked into storytelling and hauntings and history and dark and mysterious things. So I'm just hoping that a joy for reading, and also, accepting, like, you're good enough as you are. And, what is it? The Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. So
Mhm.
I just want to face your demons, whatever they may be, and just, believe in yourself. I think, yeah. Because it's something we all
Awesome.
struggle with sometimes, believing in ourselves.
Very true. And a beautiful way to end this amazing and long overdue author interview.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another amazing episode here on the channel.
Oh,
I want to give a huge thank you to my good friend Kristina for coming on the
oh,
show and
thank you.
finally making her official debut on the channel. Now,
Oh,
Kristina, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and connect, as well as pre-order a copy of your book? And do you
yes.
have any other announcements you would like to share?
Not really. And pre-order links are open on Amazon. I know that it's probably Amazon UK and Waterstones at the moment, but I know that the sales team in Sweet Cherry are looking to, Amazon.com. But if you want to follow me on social media, I'm on TikTok, Kristina Dowling author. So it's Kristina with a K. And on Instagram, I'm Kristina Dowling _author. So I'm hoping to make lots of new friends, especially in America.
Excellent. I'll be attaching all those down in the description of this video. And if you would love to
Perfect.
see Christina make a follow-up return on the channel in the
I'd love
Writer
to.
sub-series, make sure to like this video, comment, and subscribe. And as
Oh,
always, viewers and listeners, thank you so much for your love and support. A huge thank you to my good friend
thank
Christina for
you.
coming on the show. We wish her the very best. Make sure to pre-order a
Thank
copy
you.
of her book, which is coming out in September. I'll definitely be ordering my copy when it becomes available and adding it to my very, very long TBR. I will be getting down to
Oh.
all those books, and I will be posting a review of it on my blog and channel as well. And until
Oh.
next time, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Happy Thursday, everybody, and we will see you all in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye, and have a
Bye.
wonderful week.
Bye.